It is, I think, would say too stacked.
It is.
It's too stacked.
People are forgetting how good JJ's gas tank is.
Do you think JJ is taking too much of a risk?
He wants to have that one over on Jake.
It's like the final boss at the moment in Misfits, isn't it?
He is, because Jake Paul, who everyone sees as the top of the top in the scene, who's the best influencer boxer, tried and failed. And there's going to be a moment where JJ lands a shot, and we're going to see really how Tommy Fury deals with that power.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Gio. Are you ready?
Prediction.
Who wins? Surely this goes in the favour of Logan. Dillon's just pissed him off.
There's nothing that Dillon Danis possesses that is in any way a threat to Logan.
Hello and welcome to the Influencer Boxing Show with myself, Charlie Woollard, as always, your glamorous host. I mean, I haven't got a trim today, but We'll roll with it. But today we have another special episode with a very, very special guest. And by the way, Fred Beck, I'm looking right at you. You should be sitting in this chair, but you've got a dodgy eye. But instead, and anyway, we've got the main man, Gio.
Yeah.
Big man Gio's in the house.
Nice to be here.
Gio,
Fred.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
thanks for having us. No, thank you coming on the show, bro.
It's a pleasure. Listen, Fred, has he got pink eye or something? Less with the OnlyFans girls, Fred. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. It's too much with the OnlyFans girls. That's why he's got that.
He needs to cut it down just
He
a
needs
bit.
He needs to. And he's big time now. 100,000 subscribers, and he thinks he can just like no show last minute.
This is what I said to him. And also, we're not wearing red either, so
no,
it makes sense.
I'm wearing blue in protest. And protest against Fred.
I mean, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But Gio, thanks so much for coming onto the show, my
bro.
man. We met on the last Misfit show. You were top
07.
Yeah, 07. Yeah, it seems quite a while ago now.
It was, yeah. It feels like it was only May. So what's like 5 months ago? No, it was May. Exactly. Yeah.
Bro, we're getting old.
I know we are.
Time is flying. But yeah, no, thanks for coming on. A little bit about yourself, because obviously I know you very well, and the space knows you very well. But for anyone else that doesn't, just a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm an editor. Basically, that's what most people know me for. I worked for the True Geordie, who a lot of people obviously know, for 4.5 years. Prior to that, I did bits in Blackpool, where I'm originally from, Blackpool Grind Media, shout out Afghan Dan.
I did not know this, by the way. I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, so over the years, I've worked with like a sort of sprinkle of other YouTubers in between that time. And then most recently, for about a year and a bit now, I've worked with Logan Paul. So as you can imagine, over the past few weeks, it's been pretty intense, but... yeah, that's what I kind of do now. I'm basically a video editor, but I speak on Twitter about the YouTube boxing stuff. People seem to enjoy it. So that's basically what I do. Yeah, I love fighting. I love combat sports. Huge into MMA. I like boxing too. But for whatever reason, I found my sort of niche online with the influencer boxing stuff.
Name drop, by the way, Logan Paul.
No,
that's pretty cool, bro. And then, I mean, 25?
25.
This is what I mean, 23, 25. We feel we feel like we're doing all right, bro. We're living. That's what I like to say.
Bro,
we're living.
If I could go back to my like 10, 11-year-old self and say, you make YouTube videos for a living now, I'd be over the moon. So.
No, that's class. So before we begin into talking, I mean, this is why you're here, right? Talking about KSI Tommy, Logan Paul Danis, and the full Prime card, which off camera we were saying it is, I think, would say too stacked.
It is.
It's too stacked. I mean, it's mad. I just want to quickly say, so the stuff you've done with Logan Paul, I think people will also have known you for the wedding video that you edited as well.
Yeah, the proposal video.
The proposal video, should I say. Amazing, bro. Absolutely nuts. How cool was that working on that one?
Yeah, it was really cool. Obviously, I knew like a few months in advance he was going to do that. The thing is with Logan, he's a visionary. He's able to plan things out far in advance. So he knew everything he was going to say. He wanted to shoot all the VO. Literally, like in the video, you'll see him talk to camera. That was just literally like half an hour before he actually went and did the proposal. He's head over heels in love with Nina, obviously. And it actually all was meant to happen the day after it happened, the day after it was planned. And when he got to Lake Como, this was like a day after Money in the Bank wrestling. He had to bring it all forward because of weather. So like last minute, he had to change things around. But working on that video, it was very different to things I've done in the past. Like obviously, I'm used to doing sort of like intense training montages and like comedy podcasts and things like that. So to have to slow it down and do a slow pace sort of like romantic edit to try and convey the strong emotions that Logan has towards Nina, it was very different, you know. But it goes out. People obviously seem to enjoy it and stuff. And now we're looking forward to doing a wedding video at some point. Yeah?
I was going to say that's one for the portfolio there, bro.
Definitely.
For sure.
Yeah.
No, so congrats on that, because that's absolutely mad. So yeah, I think now we move on to the reason why we're all here today, because
Super Bowl of influencer boxing.
It's ridiculous, bro.
Yeah.
The word I sort of use a lot on this podcast is chaos, and it's so true because this whole scene is chaos. But this week in particular, because this is going out on fight week ahead of a mad fight week that we're going to be at in Manchester, it's going to be nuts.
Up north, in the northwest. Finally,
I'm not used to the north, guys, so you're gonna have to introduce me nicely. But KSI Tommy Fury. Let's start off with this card first. This bill first, should I say, and then we'll talk about your pal Logan Paul and Dillon Danis. It is 6 rounds of 3 minutes, 185, I believe, with no hydration clause. KSI Tommy Fury. I can't believe I'm actually saying that, because I think if we look at this about 4 or 5 years ago, we'd be sitting with each other going like, yeah, no, this isn't happening. Like KSI Tommy Fury. I mean, Tommy's the brother the brother of Tyson Fury, for God's sake. Like, it's mad, right?
It's crazy, yeah. At the beginning of the year, a lot of people were saying Jake Paul versus KSI, the fight we've been waiting for, will happen this year. And I've been on record saying it's not going to happen this year. DAZN have a 5-year deal now with Misfits. They're not going to spunk the biggest fight on the first year. This is going to be something that they're going to build towards maybe next year or even the year after that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this was 2025 when this eventually happens. Now, if you would have asked me back then if Tommy Fury would be then fighting KSI, I would have said there's even less of a chance. So to find us in this situation now where Tommy's beaten Jake Paul and is going to face KSI next week, it's insane. Yeah, it's like almost unbelievable to think.
I think as well, like this fight is even bigger now because obviously Jake has already fought Tommy. He did lose. In my personal opinion, please let me know what you feel, but I think he put up a good sort of account of himself.
Jake.
I think, yeah, of course. Like, he didn't come out and like Tommy had a lot of pressure because of his name, of the family name, and him as a professional boxer. Whereas Jake, despite the effort and things that he's put in over the years of trying to be this world champion as such, as he keeps calling himself,
it came down to experience at the end of the day. You know, obviously both of them have had their experience, but Tommy's been in the Fury family his entire life, and he's been training since he was 6 years old. So on the night, it was a boxing match. Both of these guys came to box, and he just got outclassed, unfortunately. But there will never be more pressure on Tommy's back than there was on that night when his own family was saying, you can forget the Fury surname, you're going to become Tommy Fumbles if you lose this fight. We're going to basically disown you. Like, everyone was watching it. Like, people that like are family friends that have no interest in influencer boxing or even boxing in general were texting me and talking to me about it. So, you know, I think Jake did put up a good account of himself and showed that, you know, he is an experienced boxer and that he has those skills, but unfortunately not enough to match with Tommy Fury. Yeah.
And this is the thing with JJ now going into this fight. We were saying this off camera, actually, and I'm happy to sort of speak about it now. His team is so clever. Both teams. I mean, every team within, the bigger you are, the bigger the team, ideally. And your team's got to be smart in this sort of space. But I feel like JJ's team is so smart that they wouldn't put him in this fight if they knew that he wasn't going to be able to match up to some sort. No, I'm not talking about going in and smashing his head off, winning in one round. I'm talking if he can compete with 6 rounds and end up getting the dub. I mean, now look at Jake Paul and Tommy. Jake lost.
Exactly.
He didn't get knocked out, but he lost. And he lost over 8 rounds. Whereas this is now 6 rounds, a lighter weight than Tommy's ever really experienced. Please, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that is right. Yeah,
it has to be. Yeah,
and this is gonna benefit JJ. Absolutely. For sure. And the way he fights as well, 6 rounds, he can just throw hands. Exactly. He can absolutely throw hands. People know that he's got an unorthodox style. Tommy knows he's got an unorthodox style. So this plays in the hand of JJ, right?
Exactly. And people are forgetting how good JJ's gas tank is, and we haven't really seen it since, was it 2019 when he last fought Logan, and he was able to just go 8 rounds and 6 rounds, and by the latter parts of those rounds he's still looking great, whereas recently he's only been having to go like 1-2 rounds because the opponents haven't been up to that level. So the likelihood is with him and Tommy, I don't think it's going to be over quickly. I think it's going to go into the later rounds. I think we're probably going to see it go the distance if JJ doesn't manage to knock him out. So people realize that like JJ has a great gas tank, and he's going to have that on show definitely next week.
The question I've asked all the guests we've had so far is, I want to get your opinion on this. Do you think JJ is taking too much of a risk now fighting Tommy?
That's a great question. Well, then again, people are getting frustrated with him because like he compares himself constantly to Jake Paul, and Jake Paul over the past like couple of years has worked his way up, fought MMA fighters, fought MMA champions, and knocked them out. So he's in a situation now where he tried to fight a pro boxer and he failed. So JJ being compared to Jake Paul all the time, he wants to have that one over on Jake. So is it a big risk at this stage? I'd say yes. I think it is a big risk. but it's obvious why he's doing it.
And the question I've always, when I've interviewed JJ, I've had the pleasure of speaking to the guy quite a few times, and I've always sort of mentioned to him about, he talks about legacy. I mean, we've all seen the tattoo.
He's got it tattooed on his back now.
Mad, by the way.
Yeah. I wouldn't have done
it. No, I've got no tattoos, but I definitely would not have done that. But listen, the man's got KSI written across his whole chest.
Exactly.
Knowledge, strength, integrity.
KSI, and then he's got L on his back. I think he took the L with that, to be fair. Yeah.
Smooth. No, but it's true, right? Like, realistically, the legacy is something he talks about so much. I mean, Misfits done a whole promo video about it as well. Legacy is something that JJ fully follows. He wants to be the best of the best, the cream of the crop, I think was one of his song lyrics at one point. But yeah, JJ wants to be the best, and to be the best, you have to beat the best. I'm not saying Tommy is the great, but at the moment, we were saying off camera as well, he's almost like the final boss at the moment in Misfits, isn't he?
He is, because Jake Paul, who everyone sees as the top of the top in the scene, who's the best influencer boxer, tried and failed. So it's kind of like, right, who else can do it? Now JJ's getting the opportunity. If he doesn't manage to get through, then maybe Logan or whoever it is next. But JJ wants that win over Tommy, because then if he does beat Tommy, he may not need to fight Jake. He may retire that night. And
speaking of Jake Paul, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I think as well, let's just say if JJ loses in round 4, surely Jake Paul's the A side now, because he went the distance with Tommy. He might have lost, but he went the distance.
Potentially. But then again, how many fights has Jake Paul been the A side for as of recently? I don't know if he's been in the A side for that many of them too. It depends where the fight is. Obviously, if they do it in the UK, I imagine that KSI will be the A side. But I think there's a lot of talk of who's the A side, but I don't know if it matters too much.
And but what I'm trying to say is it, I think the A side, again, I think that comes, the location I think is really important. I'm glad you mentioned that as well. Because I think there's been a lot of talk about Wembley Stadium, which, by the way, I think they absolutely can sell out. I mean, think about the sort of the pressure, the ticket pressure and stuff for this event in Manchester. I think it's about 22,000. That's sold out within an hour or so, or not even that. And the ticket prices are mental, by the way, now.
Of course.
But yeah, going back to what I was saying, in the sense of if JJ knocks him out, surely he doesn't even need to fight Jake, really, if he knocks him out. But I think it's the manner of what happens on the night.
No, I agree.
Considering where them two are going to fight.
I agree, because even if he goes in there and loses, I mean, then again, Jake only lost a split decision against Tommy. So I mean, like, it's hard to sort of like one up that unless you beat him. You can't lose and one up a split decision, really, unless he gets a draw or whatever, which obviously JJ did last time he fought at Manchester Arena. So it's completely not off the cards. But yeah, I think if they do it in the UK, 100% JJ will be the A side. But I don't know. Maybe if they do like a big event in the US, then maybe they'll have Jake as the A side. But I'm not too sure.
I'm going to put you on the spot, Gio. Are you ready?
Prediction.
Who wins?
It's a tricky one. I've been on the record of saying that I do think Tommy Fury is going to win, and I think the eye test shows the experience. We saw how it was against Jake. He's been consistent. He's obviously part of the Fury family. He has that technical ability. He showed that pressure doesn't get to him in the way that we thought it may have done against Jake. So when they fought, it was a boxing match. When he fights JJ next week, it's not going to be a boxing match. It's going to be JJ's fight. I think JJ, I just mentioned before, he's put all of the things in his corner. Do you know what I mean? He knows. He's put himself in the best position to perform the best on the night. And JJ's going to turn it into a brawl. And he's going to have a lot of volume. He's going to come forward. He's going to be throwing big, unorthodox shots. He's not going to stand behind his jab like Jake did and make it into a boxing match. And there's going to be moments where, because Tommy his defense is decent, but it's not good enough to just evade shots all night. There's going to be moments where JJ is going to get rocked, and JJ throws everything into those shots. And as we were talking about before, his gas tank is being overlooked too. So those shots aren't just going to be coming for the first 2-3 rounds, and then he's going to tire out. They're going to be coming all night, and there's going to be a moment where JJ lands a shot, and we're going to see really how Tommy Fury deals with that power.
So Gio, from what I'm gathering from that, you actually don't think Tommy's going to win, because I don't know, you're just sort of edging towards JJ by the sounds of that. You were saying that everything's sort of falling into his corner, but realistically, right?
I want JJ to win. I want to say that I want JJ to win. On the night, I'm clearly going to be supporting JJ, and I think anyone who supports influencer boxing at all that wants to see it grow, we need a JJ win. Tommy Fury's
get more work.
Exactly.
We get more work. JJ has to win.
Exactly. The star dimmed a little bit in February when Jake lost to Tommy, so now we we need an influencer to beat Tommy Fury, because then it's all fair, you know? The only thing that we're not going to probably get if JJ beats Tommy is that KSI Jake Paul fight that we've all been waiting for. Because why does he need to fight Jake at that point? He's beating the guy that beat the guy, you know?
No,
maybe there'll be a rematch or something else that happens, but I think if JJ lands that shot on October 14th and puts Tommy Fury on his arse, it could be insane. What I hope is this is nothing controversial, because JJ, because of the style of and the way that he fights, and obviously like in the past he's had a few controversial decisions in 07 with the elbow and things like that. I hope there's no controversy. I hope whatever happens, it's clean. I do want JJ to win, but if I was to put my house on it, Tommy.
House, you heard that? House.
Well,
house.
My flat. I live in London. I can't afford a house. You know what I mean?
No, but that's a fair point, because I feel like, well, before we move on to Logan, I just want to quickly say, I feel Tommy should win, right? Tommy should win, realistically, but we are in the crossover scene. Anything can happen. This is why this scene is, as much as people might dislike it, it is entertainment at the end of the day. It is so entertaining, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And this fight is the pinnacle of crossover boxing as it stands, because KSI has so much pressure on his shoulders, and which he always thrives off. Again, what I said, I've interviewed him a lot of times, and he always talks about how he loves pressure. He loves proving people wrong. And this is why I actually think KSI was actually going to win, because I feel like Tommy's fought on pressure, but this time he's already overcome the first lot of pressure.
The pressure next week is going to be nothing compared to the pressure when he fought Jake Paul.
Exactly.
And that was building up for years.
And you can only see him, the reaction after the fight as well.
Definitely. He was in tears. He was so happy, you know. And obviously he just had a kid at that point.
100%. This is what I mean. This is why this week is going to be nuts, bro.
Exactly.
It's going to be nuts. It's such an entertaining fight. But now we move on to your good pal, Logan Paul, Dillon Danis. This fight, in my personal opinion, is, I don't know, I'm going to go ahead and say, for me, one of the most exciting because of the build-up to it. I mean, we've had so much drama. You know a lot about what's going on, Gio.
I've been in the thick of it. I've been in the front line, you know.
Bro's been a soldier on the front line.
I have been.
This has been, again, chaos. I'm going to use that word again. I'm so sorry. Please don't roast me in the comments, but it's true. It has been chaos, because Logan's had to deal with a lot of shit.
Absolutely.
A lot of shit.
Yeah.
Dillon's been going at his wife, Nina, poor Nina.
Fiance, technically. They're not married yet.
True. I keep thinking that.
Everyone's saying wife, but that's it. It's fiance.
It's fiance, yeah. My mum and dad are not married, so I'm not really clued up in this whole marriage thing. But yeah, no, it is so true, right? He's been going at her for weeks, as much as people might find it entertaining. Relentlessly, every day, for months. I think probably about two months now, maybe.
Since about August, so yeah, 2 months. 2 months. 2 months, yeah.
And Logan's had to deal with a lot of crap, and we were speaking about this, me and Gio, because I think it's interesting now we quickly talk about it. Surely this goes in the favour of Logan. Dillon's just pissed him off. He's going...
The fight?
Yeah, the fight, 100%. Dillon's pissed him off. Well, yeah. Logan's coming into this fight now fueled up, big time fueled up.
There's no advantages that Dillon has.
No.
And that's the thing. In the fight, Logan's had previous boxing fights, although he hasn't had a technical boxing win on his record. He did have a good showing of himself both times with JJ. Obviously, he lost the second time, but technically maybe he should have won that. It was a very controversial, thing with the punch in the ground, 2 points taken, all that. He went 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. People say that he carried him. It is what it is. He went 8 rounds with him. Deji wasn't able to do that. He's had the experience. There's nothing that Dillon Danis possesses that is in any way a threat to Logan, unless he gets a miracle on the night. And I do not believe he's going to be able to do that. Now, a lot of people, when we were speaking about it before, think the pressure is going to get to Logan. He's going to be too emotional. He's going to leave himself open, maybe make a mistake. Because obviously, we mentioned before, like in influencer boxing, anything can happen. But I don't think Logan is the type of person to let these things get into his head, right? This has been a very hard, couple weeks or however long it's been. But Logan has been in a way worse situation. Like, people forget about the forest and things like that. Like, the entire world was hating on him and things like that, So Logan's able to push these things aside, keep a straight head, and I think on fight night, maybe there's going to be moments where it gets emotional, but I don't think he's going to let it get to him.
I think you're right. No, I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because Logan's obviously involved in the WWE, which again is a high pressured situation, because, I mean, despite if something's a script and you've got to follow a certain manner, you have to be at your A game at all times. You've got the world watching you all the time, and the biggest stage, SummerSlam, Money in the Bank, things like that, Royal Rumble, it's nuts, right? WrestleMania as well, by the way, it's crazy. But this fight for me suits Logan to an absolute T, because the drama going into it is what fans want to see, as much as how crazy some of the photos and things that Dillon's been releasing and things he's been saying. The press conference you was at as well in London was crazy with Big John coming in, throwing the tables everywhere.
I'm a machine. All that shit.
Impression, by the way. But again, like the fight, the build up to it's been so mad that it just makes you want to see the fight even more, doesn't it?
Yeah, because this is the thing. This is like move beyond the influencer boxing scene. There's political people online making whole breakdowns on this. Do you know what I mean? People are saying this is going to be a case study for, you know, what girls are posting online. Like, I'm sure there's been a lot of high profile girls now that have been deleting photos of social media just in case something like this happens. Now, obviously this is a very niche and like unique case, but at the same time, like, something like this has never happened before. Do you know what I mean? And is it right what Dillon did? I don't think so. I don't think that Nina should have been brought into the level that she was. But Logan's excited for this. Whenever I speak to Logan, he's not nervous. He's excited because not many people have the opportunity, if say for instance like someone goes at the wife, to get in a ring with them and smash the head in. Now I did say this to Logan, and he isn't going to do this, but I said I would take the disqualification loss just when he's on the ground, so just stamp on his head. Now Logan said, bro, I need a win. He's not going to do that, but I mean, that's what I would do.
Gio's a madman. You said you like MMA, so
yeah.
It's all coming out now.
Yeah.
But what is your relationship like with Logan on a fight week now? Because is this the first time you've experienced it? You know, when KSI fought Logan, you wasn't working with Logan then. So this is your first experience working with Logan on fight week, opposed from the WWE and things like that.
Of course. It's very different.
Of course. But how is it working with Logan? And you mentioned stuff about the stuff that you've said to him. You've sort of seen, I'm guessing you've seen footage of how he's been training. Is there anything you can sort of tell us about that?
I've seen a lot. You know, I've seen sparring and things like that, and everything I see just makes me more and more confident. You know what I mean? Like, he's experienced. He looks really good in sparring. Like, he's getting the better of all of his sparring opponents, and the more I see, the more worried I get for Dillon, if I'm being honest. And I'm not going to speak too much about it, but I have a very specific prediction of how I think he's going to get it done, and I do think he's going to get it done early.
Oh my word! How early?
First 2 rounds.
How early?
In the first 2 rounds, I'd be very surprised, and he either gets knocked out cold or he just takes too much damage, and the corner throw the towel in.
I was going to say this because the link between KSI and the Logan fight on the evening is that I feel like that first round they're both going to be so similar in the way they fight, because they're both they're going to want to come out, they're going to want to come out strong and quick and fast. We are going to see a lot of handbags being thrown, I think, in that first round, and then after that we're going to start seeing some more technical ability as such. Of course, you agree?
I agree, but I also at the same time I don't think that Dillon is going to try and box Logan. I think he's going to try and make it a brawl because he's striking. He just doesn't. He hasn't had the time to build the experience, unless he's been boxing behind the scenes for years. Build the experience to be able to just stand and box with Logan. He's going to have to make it into a brawl. He's going to have to make it messy, make it dirty, because we've seen historically with Logan, and it's weird because I'm talking like what Dillon should do at this point, but be like JJ, just be in his face the entire time and not allow Logan to settle into any sort of rhythm. Because if Logan settles into a rhythm, Dillon's fucked. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And this is if you're a boxer, this is like the worst question you can ask someone, but I'm going to ask you because I think it makes sense. You know, when people say to you, oh, what next? Even before they've even fought the person, because you don't want to look past them. But let's just say Logan beats Dillon Danis comfortably or within, I don't know, 3-4 rounds. And by the way, I believe it's the same fight as the JJ fight. It is 6 3-minute rounds.
Yep.
Which for me, it's just too short, but it is what it is.
I wish it was sort of 8.
So did I, 100%. Yeah. And this is what we're saying, it goes in the favour for JJ, and I'm sure it probably goes in the favour of Logan, can sort of go ham for 6 rounds. But where do you think Logan goes after this one? Because obviously he's doing well for himself with Prime. The fact that KSI and Logan are now friends and doing Prime is a whole podcast for a whole different occasion. But yeah, where do you think Logan goes after this?
It's a really interesting one because it all depends on obviously what happens between KSI and Tommy, because if KSI loses to Tommy, then Logan's sort of next up. Then if he finishes Dillon in a devastating fashion, then people are going to want to see Logan fight again, and Logan versus Tommy is probably the next fight to make. So if KSI loses to Tommy, then it is Logan versus Tommy. But then if JJ beats Tommy, it's interesting because then who else is there? Maybe Nate Diaz, but then again, we've already seen sort of Nate Diaz against Jake Paul, so maybe it's sort of like a rerun of that. It won't be that interesting. It's a difficult one. I don't know. Like, Logan hasn't spoke to maybe Mike Perry. That's another one because Mike Perry was the lineup as the backup potentially there. Conor McGregor's sort of floating in the scene right now.
So glad you mentioned that. He's going to be. Apparently, he's going to be there this week.
He's umming and ahhing about it
because he was supposed to be at the press conference for.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't.
Oh, because I heard that. I heard he was supposed to be there.
I can clear that up if you want. So basically, there was a little
plaque, wasn't it?
Plaque on the table that said Conor McGregor with all of the name tags.
It looked legit, by the way, proper legit.
Yeah. So Fred actually asked Dillon about this on his show, and Dillon said, "Mams knows what he's doing. He's a student of the WWE game, things like that." He put that there because he knew people would talk about it and sort of rile something up. But there was no plan for him to be there at the press conference. I don't think he's going to be there on fight night, to be honest, because when has Conor come out to support Dillon in the past, as opposed to like a few interviews when people have asked him about it at like his pub events and things like that?
The only reason why I feel like he might. One, because I think we're going to see like the most amount of celebrities and things I think we've ever seen. I think there'll probably be a few footballers. I'm not surprised. Like it's nuts, right?
Holly Willoughby, Louis Theroux.
Yeah, I mean,
those lots.
Prime people, by the way. Pardon the pun. But I don't know. I just feel like there's something telling me, because did you see when Anthony Joshua fought? He was obviously, JJ was there. Yeah, Conor McGregor was there as well. Because it's such a these sort of events, when it is such a big event and there's a lot of cameras there, Conor thrives off their moments. That's why I generally think he might be there.
So he was there, I think, at the AJ fight because Forged Irish Start was something to do with the promotion.
Yeah.
I don't think, obviously, any of Conor McGregor's products are being sponsored on the Prime card.
No, I doubt it.
So that might be the reason why he's not there. But he was meant to be training Dillon for this, and then now he's recently saying he's had a kid, like I couldn't train him and things like that. Like, I doubt McGregor's actually going to be there. Yeah.
Let's hope so, though, because, I mean, me and Gio just love the beef, don't we? Yeah. We like the little stir up. It goes mad on Twitter, doesn't it? Or X.
X. I'm never calling it X. It's always going to be Twitter to me. But the thing is with McGregor, like, he's a smart guy. He's supporting Dillon, and I would support Dillon too if I was Conor McGregor because he's his training partner. He's been with them, for however long. But in his heart of hearts, he probably knows that he's going to lose. So he doesn't want to be there and have to deal with all the cameras and the interviews and things. And there's going to be cameras on Conor's face as Dillon gets knocked out. You know what I mean? Like,
it's a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, exactly.
Before we wrap up this first section, I want to ask you quickly, how different are we going to see Logan's style compared to what we saw in his last boxing fight, would you say? I know it was quite a while ago, but are we going to see sort of a big difference, do you think?
Right hands. Yeah. I think obviously, the last time we saw him fight an influencer, ignoring the sort of the Mayweather fight, I feel like we're going to see him throw a lot more right hands. Because that's something he didn't do against KSI. Do you know what I mean? It was all behind the jab. That one right hand uppercut that he threw actually managed to knock down JJ. And I don't think that Dillon has the persistence, has the gas tank, has any asset really to give Logan any problems. So I feel like Logan from the first bell is going to be going forward, throwing right hands, showing the experience, showing all the work that he's put in, showing his athleticism, and he's just going to put a beating on Dillon. I
was going to say, I think Tyson Fury sort of portrays this really well. It's not sort of how you look to how good you are as a boxer, but my word, I'm a straight man, but Logan's absolutely ripped at the moment, isn't he?
Oh, definitely.
He's looking solid.
I won't be surprised if Logan is landing shots on him repeatedly and talking to him in the ring. It's going to be similar. Khabib when he was beating up McGregor. You want to talk now? You want to talk now?
I actually think something like that's going to happen, though. Yeah. But yeah, last question, Gio. I'm going to have to ask you the question as well. Final prediction for Dillon Danis, Logan Paul.
Logan Paul in the first 2 rounds.
First two?
First
one or
two
two?
Rounds.
So
one or two. Second round.
Second round, there you go.
All of these fights are tests. They're all kind of 50-50s. There's not that many where you look at and you go, yeah, Astra's clearly going to win this, or yes, Slim's clearly going to win this. They're looking for the next KSI, the next Logan Paul, because there's all the chances that like KSI and Logan may both retire next week. I think the worst blood on this entire card is Logan versus Dillon, and the next is Dean Waleed. These guys really want to get one over on each other.
So undercard time, Gio, because we mentioned this in the first sort of segment that it's too stacked. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they've sort of done... I get they wanted to make this like a massive event. And listen, it is a huge event. It's the biggest crossover boxing event I think we've ever seen across all the different sort of even Kingpin or things like that, MVP. No shade being shown, but I think it's just a fact.
No,
like
it's
they've literally got
It's
everybody, like it's like the multiverse. They've sort of got everybody on one sort of platform. But I've got it next to me here. I'm going to read out some of the events. So we've got Salt Pappy Slim, huge. Dean the Great Woollard Sharks, which by the way we're going to talk about in a minute. Heavily underrated fight. It's mental. That's going to be crazy. King Kenny AT, Anthony Taylor, Winterson Nunes, my mate Nate, and then we've got the tag team. Alex Wasabi's back. Massive talking point by the way. Nick LMAO, and then obviously Pineda and B Dave. They're fighting
Dave, my boy.
Which is going to be...
I'm super excited. And the good thing about this as well is usually on Misfits or in influencer boxing in general, there's a few mismatches. With this, everyone's very evenly matched. And because we've had now a year since last August until now to find everyone's ability, we've found like a sweet spot for everyone. So we're giving these fighters a good opportunity to fight someone of a similar level rather than just like putting a Salt Pappy in there with an Andy Warski or whatever. So like all of these fights are tests. They're all kind of 50-50s. There's not that many where you look at and you go, yeah, Astra's clearly going to win this, or yes, Slim's clearly going to win this. These are all wars.
You know, like Champions League finals in every single fight.
Exactly.
This is why this is a positive, and I think we'll talk about this to start off with why I believe, and I think you agree with me as well, why it's too stacked. But the positives are of having a stacked card. One, increases sort of the excitement around the event. I mean, again, we've mentioned that the show sold out within, I don't even know how long it was. I know it was sort of minutes, hours, things like that. It was within a day. I know for a fact. And like some of these fights on there, like Salt Pappy versus Slim, a fight that everybody's been wanting to see for so long, is made, and it's on the same event as KSI and Logan. And again, the fact that KSI and Logan are on the same card says everything. You've got King Kenny AT so underrated in my personal opinion. Hasn't really been knocked out at all, has he, by anyone?
No.
Managed to get the win against Salt Pappy. He's fuming because he would probably want to be up there as well. But the reason why I think there's a negative to it, and please let me know your thoughts as well, and as well in the comments, let us know. I just feel like some of these fights could be a main event in themselves, and I know listen, Misfits are not going to have any problem putting on events.
Exactly.
They've got the money behind them. They've got the fighters to put the cards on. But look, some of these events, we saw one in Newcastle that you was at sort of a few weeks ago. I mean, listen, King Kenny AT, for example, is a main event in itself. Salt Pappy Slim is a main event in itself.
Almost all of these fights could be main events in themselves. And obviously, the Zone have signed a 5-year deal with Misfits, so they're expecting to have these events consistently over the next 5 years. So when I first saw this card, I was in a similar place as you. I was thinking, why put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, you know? But somebody made a good point. I can't remember exactly where I saw it, but they said that what this allows, because there's going to be so many eyes on this card, is they're looking for the next KSI, the next Logan Paul, because there's all the chances that like KSI and Logan may both retire next week. They may just hang the gloves up, and then where does Misfits go from there? They need a superstar. There could be multiple people on that card that have a great showing that are able to then be the next huge superstar, because unfortunately right now, if KSI, Logan and Jake and Tommy left the scene, who's going to be carrying it? There's not that many big names that are going to be able to do that. Salt Pappy is big, but obviously coming off a loss to AT, we're going to need a big star to carry us forward. And by putting everyone on this one card and not on a Newcastle card or headlining in Telford or whatever, because there's going to be so many eyes, everyone that's fighting on this card is going to see a huge spike in followers, is going to see a huge spike in engagement, and potentially, if someone has a great finish or a great performance, we may see a new Misfit star born that night.
That was inspirational. I quite like that, man. That was very nice. No, but you've made a really, really good point there. So I'm going to ask you first, out of the fights that I've just sort of picked out on the undercard, which one excites you the most?
I'm going to be honest and say Dean versus Waleed. And I think because there's so much tension there, for me, it's all about storylines when it comes to influencer boxing. I'm relentlessly saying this. The storylines are what got us involved in the first place with KSI, Joe Weller, even back then with KSI, Logan Paul.
Theo Baker and Joe Weller.
Theo Baker, Joe Weller storylines. Dean versus Waleed 1 was probably the most technical fight on Misfits, and also one of the most exciting fights, obviously, with Dean getting hurt early on, getting knocked down early on, and then coming back and winning, getting the knockout against Waleed. It was such an exciting fight. It had you on the edge of the seat the entire time. Both of these guys are personalities.
Good ability as well.
Absolutely. That's what I'm saying. It was one of the best technical fights. I mean, Waleed, former Golden Gloves fighter. Dean's obviously had a plentiful experience. He's such a great fighter. So they've built the rivalry as well in the events, having them fight at the press conferences. I thought it was genius putting them off on the same tag team, making them work together for that one night. But
what I mean, WWE storylines.
Very
it's
WWE,
great.
but that's
great.
what I love about it, you know?
100%.
Because even though some of the storylines are like, quote unquote, inauthentic or like fabricated. This isn't. The rivalry between these guys is real.
They actually don't like each other.
Really do not like each other. So it's great when you see, like we were speaking before about Logan and Dillon, two people who genuinely do not like each other that have the opportunity to knock 10 bells out of each other. And that's why I'm so excited for this fight, because if you look at the full card, there's not that much bad blood. I think the worst blood on this entire card is Logan versus Dillon, and then next is Dean Waleed. These guys really want to get one over on each other. And there's a huge chip on Waleed's shoulder because he lost the first time when he firmly believed that he had the ability to beat him. And he was very close to doing so. It was the best fight in Misfits history. So,
No, I completely agree. And funny enough, Wade Plem, shout out Wade, by the way. Hope you're good, bro. He was on the podcast and said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
He was, before, obviously, this was even made. To be fair. No, but he did come out and say that the one fight, I asked him what the one fight that he really wants to be seen made. This was, by the way, it's out already. It was filmed ages ago, before the Prime card was even a thing. He said, Dean the Great and Waleed. Fred said the exact same thing. Shout out Fred, by the way. Fuming, Fred. We're fuming. But he said the exact same thing. This fight's massive, and it has everyone talking. But again, it's on the Prime card, which, is that going to be the biggest story of the night? Unfortunately, no. Like, it's not. Like, as much as we can sit here and say how exciting it is, it will be a talking point, of course.
Absolutely.
But it won't be the talking point. And I think for a storyline and an event like Dean the Great and Waleed Sharks could be, I think it's a bit sad for them, and I would feel a little bit sorry. But the one thing that does go in Waleed's favours, and hopefully, if I'm being honest, if Mams and Misfits as a whole is sitting there with their business heads on, they'd want Waleed to win this, because then we've got a trilogy potentially.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
that's the storyline just continues.
Yeah, and as I said before, there's a huge chip on his shoulder now. He wants to win. He's had some incredible performances on Misfits and outside of Misfits. I mean, he's been fighting so consistently. So that's the thing. But the thing is, like, you talk about, this is sad that this is not sort of his main event. Like, what's going to get more views? Dean Waleed 2 main event in Miami or whatever, or the Coco main event on the Prime card? The likelihood is they're going to get way more views, way more followers, way more engagement with it being on the Prime card because of the amount of eyes on this fight. So if I was either Dean or Waleed, I'd actually be very thankful this is on the Prime card. This is like an opportunity for them to really become huge stars at the back of this.
100%.
And then the trilogy, say for instance, if Waleed wins, the trilogy is his own event, maybe, in Miami or wherever they put it.
We hope so. That's the thing. That's one thing. If Waleed wins, then I'm really hoping they get their own event, because again, they're good talkers as well. We've seen the amount of beef and stuff, even in Fred's. I know Fred was here. He would tell us about the beef that he had. You see in Fred's video and things like that in the past. So it is a massive talking point. We're going to do the predictions for the undercard at the end of the segment, so you can have a think about that. But next fight, I'm going to pick one out. I'm going to go with King Kenny AT, King Kenny Anthony Taylor. As I said in the old intro to this segment, my personal opinion, Anthony Taylor is so underrated because of the fact that every time he's got in the ring with Idris Virgo, we've seen him fight Sal Papi, he even got the dub.
At Raksu, yeah.
He's done well. He's holding a good account of himself. He hasn't been knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, he's a big talker. He's got a big mouth. Very, 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 very big mouth.
Warmed to him, yeah.
You can hear AT from anywhere. You could walk in the press conference. Trust me, this man is there.
Yeah, he stole the show at the 007 press conference.
Honestly.
And they put him bang in the middle, and he was there in his tuxedo. He looked like
James Bond, bro.
Yeah, he's such an entertaining character.
But that's what makes him. And he's actually not bad.
No,
this is the thing. If he was shit, right, I personally, when I sort of started getting into the influencer boxing scene, even back in 01, things like that, right, I sort of found out about AT, and because he fought Tommy, didn't he, as well?
Yep.
And I was like, this guy's just naff. Like, he's naff. Like, listen, when I'm saying naff, I mean, we're in the crossover scene, okay? Not professional boxing sort of style, okay? But listen, AT wasn't my sort of fighter that I'd really like seeing. Big mouth. He was just like, I was at the Deji Mayweather press conference, by the way.
I remember that.
Deji fought Mayweather. Like, what the hell?
Of course. Well, he wanted to fight Mayweather.
I know.
AT was calling for it the entire time.
You remember? That's why I mentioned it. He was sitting the whole press conference, by the way. It was just AT.
Yeah.
He was just there the whole time. But this is what he does. He wants to be the star of the show. But he's actually given a good account of himself. He's beaten Salt Papi, who was supposed to be and still could be the next big star in Misfits. And he's fighting King Kenny, another one who I really, really enjoy watching, because King Kenny's got such a good sort of background behind him. I mean, the whole Beta Squad and things like that. Shout out to them, because they're all legends and they're top guys.
Yeah.
King Kenny's a great guy. He's a good style fighter. He was a bit like Deji in the sense of I'm doing a lot of talking here, by the way, but this is the truth, right? King Kenny come out, and you wanted to see him come out more, throw some hands. He's got a good ability.
Yeah.
And he did that in his last fight.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely. In his last 2 fights, actually. Obviously,
100%.
the last 2 fights he fought on Kingpin. First one was against my mate Nate. Killer Kenny. He came out as Killer Kenny. Like, he was throwing
Big
shots.
hands.
Exactly, throwing shots. He wasn't afraid. He was going forward, and he realized in order to win these influencer boxing fights, you can't just stand behind a jab, and you've got to do things to be memorable for the judges so that you win the rounds or you get a finish. And he got a finish against my mate Nate, and obviously he went the distance with Nunes, but oh my God, did he look good against Nunes. He looked like Anderson Silva, and he was so composed
100%.
in there. The way that he was throwing the shots, the way that he was dancing around, he just so confident, and that comes with experience. That comes with, working with Daily Paralysis and just looking so good. Yeah.
And this is the thing, the Twitter, I remember during that sort of, I keep saying that, glad you mentioned it, but it's the truth, right? With King Kenny, when he fought Nunes, Twitter was exploding, wasn't it? Like everyone.
No one
I know you was
expects him
going
to
mad
look
over it.
that
He was
good.
like, wow. Every round, everyone was like, Kenny, wow.
Yeah.
Because he looked so good. And this is a really good fight for him, I think, because we talked about how AT, he's quite strong, isn't he?
He
Never
is.
really been knocked. I don't think he has been knocked out once, I think, in the crossover scene, which is a big thing, by the way, because we've seen some big knockouts.
And, you mentioned that AT's overrated, and obviously he doesn't get that credit he deserves or whatever, but we've also got to remember, this guy's a pro fighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of people are annoyed at the fact that he's sort of mixing and fighting influences like AT, like King Kenny, like Salt Papi, because he has like a lot of fights in Bellator. He's been fighting for years and years and years. Does he belong mixing with the influencers, or should he be fighting the likes of Chalmers, Virgo in the pro scene? And he's almost got the same aura as we were speaking before about Tommy Fury, like who can be the one to beat the pro fighter. Now, obviously, every influencer that he's gone up against, whether it's been Raksu, Salt Papi, they've not managed to do it. Obviously, Idris Virgo managed to do that, but he's a pro fighter. So Kenny has the opportunity to get that one over on him, and it's definitely a tough matchup for Kenny.
This fight for me stands out quite a lot because they're two quite tough fighters. I think King Kenny's quite tough in himself, in himself as well. But I think the pressure sits on Kenny this fight because of how good he's been. Mm-hmm. I think Anthony Taylor, of course, like he come out, beat Sal Papi. No one expected him to beat Sal Papi. I remember we were sitting there watching that, and we were actually like, wow, like fair enough.
Yeah.
He was standing there in the corner of the ropes, hands raised. He was absolutely gassed, and rightly so.
Yeah.
And in this fight, he's now fighting Kenny, who's got the world behind him. Mm-hmm. He's got the whole of Manchester Arena is going to be wanting him to win.
Absolutely.
So
All the beta squad will be there. No doubt they'll be like pulling
pressure's
stuff
on Kenny.
AT. Absolutely. But then again, the pressure was on Kenny in Dublin against Whindersson Nunes because all the Brazilians were there. And were you there for the Kingpin events?
I didn't. Listen. I was busy.
Okay.
I was busy.
Okay.
But I missed it, and I'm so gutted I missed it because, again, it was such a cool event.
So I was there for the first Kingpin event when obviously we didn't really know much about Nunes. We knew he was this big star, and obviously we'll speak about the Nunes-Kenny, my main 8 fight, but like the Brazilians turned out and the pressure was at an all-time high. Kenny can deal with pressure. But you're right, this is going to be the first big test for him against AT, against a guy who's going to be coming forward the entire time, who's going to be a pressure fighter. So Kenny is going to have to fight fire with fire because he's not going to be like Nunes where he's just going to wait for him and try and counter him. He's just going to be going relentlessly for him.
Do you feel like this one goes the distance? Because I think it does.
Yeah.
I think Anthony Taylor's quite, like as I said, he's
a dog.
Quite strong. He's a dog.
Is a dog.
He loves a little scrap. Can take a few shots. When I mean a few, he can take a lot of shots.
Yeah.
And Kenny's.
He's got he hasn't got a neck.
No,
you know what I mean? He's like a
his
pit
head
bull.
just sort of sits here, doesn't it?
He's like an XL bully in a way,
Hopefully he doesn't get banned. Yeah. But yeah, I think this one goes the distance for me.
Yeah.
We'll talk about predictions afterwards.
Okay.
But I think you'd agree, right? It goes the distance.
Definitely. Yeah.
You can pick the next one. We've got Whindersson Nunes, my mate Nate, the tag team, Salt Papi.
Yeah, we were speaking about Whindersson Nunes before, so let's go on to that
Okay.
fight. Yeah, so Whindersson Nunes obviously had a decent fight against Philippek, although Philippek didn't really turn up and do much. I think he fought one fight before that. I can't really remember too much about that. But he looked decent. Like, he actually showed that he has decent experience in boxing. And then he had some moments against Kenny, but, he didn't look great against Kenny. And then again, neither did my mate Nate. So we're in a situation where both of these guys, both coming off of losses to King Kenny. Apparently, my mate Nate was meant to fight after the Kenny loss on the third Dublin card.
I heard that as
maybe
well, yeah.
against a McBroom or someone like that, but that never came to fruition. But we were talking before about, like, there needs to be a big star that's born off the back of Misfits. If they want, I'm hearing a lot of talk about a Misfits Brazil card. Nunes.
Oh, I haven't heard that. That's nuts. That's nuts.
Like,
because his fan following's
Exactly.
isn't it?
For instance, they have Nunes headlining a Brazil card. You get Anderson Silva on the card, all these other Brazilian fighters. Then bring over Julie Polka and all the people like that, because obviously the Kingpin tournament's not happening now. Nunes could potentially be a huge star for Misfits if they move into in that area. I do think it's Nunes' fight to win. Obviously, we'll go on to predictions, but I don't really see anything that my mate Nate did in that original fight with Kenny that will have that much of a problem for Nunes.
I think as well, and it's going to sound a bit harsh to say, but let me know your thoughts as well. And as always, let us know in the comments. But I think Nunes, since that loss to Kenny, he has sort of fallen off a little bit, like the excitement around him as the star of as a new star of Misfits, because Kenny's obviously been in the scene a lot longer than Nunes now. Nunes brings this following, brings this excitement, and then that loss to Kenny sort of puts him down a peg. And as we know in the world of combat sports, it's a game of snakes and ladders, right? Mm-hmm. If you win, you go up. And when I mean you go up, your price tag goes up. It's all to do with money. It's always to do with how good you are as well. And if you lose, you go down the ladder. And when you go down the ladder in the crossover scene, you go down by quite a bit. Yeah. Right? I guess you could say with Salt Pepper, he still landed a massive fight with Slim, which we'll talk about in a minute after his defeat to Anthony Taylor. But with Nunes losing to King Kenny, I feel like this fight now with my mate Nate, it's quite sad because it's not as exciting as it should be, despite the following that he's got from the Brazilian fans.
Yeah, that's the funny thing though, because there's a big asterisk there. Because like Nunes could lose his last two fights, and these next two fights, but if they put on a big event in Brazil, the Brazilians are turning up. And this is what I'll say about the Nunes thing. The Brazilian fans that go and support Nunes, they don't care about Misfits. They don't care about crossover boxing. They care about seeing Whindersson Nunes, who they all love, fight. And that's why we were all surprised in that Kingpin tournament, because beforehand, it wasn't as if there was these like huge sort of like Twitter things with Nunes and everyone's talking about him. On the night, everyone turned out, and the crowd in the arena on that night, I'm talking the Kingpin quarterfinals when Nunes fought Filipek, it felt like an Anthony Joshua fight, or it felt like a KSI main event. Like, I've never experienced something of that level and influence of boxing, to the point when Gibb and McBroom fought, it was like a leisure centre, like everyone had left. So I agree, but at the same time, the Brazilians are going to turn out no matter what, because they love Whindersson Nunes.
Which is great. It's great for the sport, great for the whole Misfits event. And this is the one thing by the way, I really, really enjoy about these crossover events. That I feel like it's really sad for undercards of like Matchroom events and Wasserman, things like that, professional promoters that put on shows for boxing, is that when you walk into the arena on the first card, it's empty. Yeah. Whereas you go to Misfits and you go to Kingpin, wherever, the place is full, because people are excited about the card. And this is what's I'm really going to enjoy about this event. We were saying how stacked it is. It's going to be full from the moment you walk in. When that first bell goes on the prelims, it's going to be packed, and that's what the sport needs. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, yes, you're paying to see Logan Paul, Danis, and you're paying to see KSI Tommy Fury, but you're also paying to see some good fights underneath. Exactly. And a fight like Nunes, who brings Brazilian fans, I'm going to be surprised to see how many Brazilian fans are getting into that stadium.
But they sold a lot of tickets way before the Nunes fight was announced. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
So they're going to be fuming. We are going to see.
They could have done Wembley for this. I honestly believe they could have done Wembley. And if they would have announced the Nunes fight, then all the Brazilians would have bought the tickets, definitely. Would have
been like an international game. We'd have had half and half. We'd have had like a half Brazil and half like London.
I could not believe it, honestly.
Half like England fans.
I keep harping on about it, but like the Kingpin event, all the Brazilian flags, all the Brazilian chants, it felt like we're in Rio, but we're in Wembley.
It's crazy. Yeah. I heard the atmosphere was nuts. It was
crazy.
Let's move on to Salt Papi versus Slim. A massive fight. It got announced in Newcastle, didn't it? They came out and loved a little Slim Shady song.
It was great. I love all the theatrics. Some people are like, they love or hate with it, but I love that they had the contract and obviously had previously been signed. They got to sign it in the thing. Mams comes out. I love that, because that's what it's all about. It's all about the storylines. Gio, it's the facts people want to see.
Let me tell you something. I'll stop you there just for a second, because what's the one thing that this scene gets you doing? It gets you talking. Despite if you love it or hate it, it gets you talking. That is what this scene is for. Yeah. It gets you talking. Yeah,
exactly.
Listen, you could walk down the street and someone would be like, oh, that idiot JJ or that idiot KSI, he lost the other night. Well, they want you to talk about it. This is what this space is for. Like all these stupid things that gets put on. Listen, we're in the space and we can sit here and say, oh, it was a bit cringy, not going to lie. But this is what they do it for. Exactly. They talk about it. And the same with like this Salt Papi and Slim, all the songs and things like that. They want you to talk about their fight.
Exactly. And it works so well. And it's kind of like the WWE. Like growing up, I was never really into the WWE. I didn't really get it. But once you're involved and once you've got someone to support, like obviously with Logan getting involved now, I understand understand why it's such a big attraction.
Bro, you missed so much. I grew up on WWE.
Oh,
it's the best thing, bro. It was the best thing. Bro, when you heard John Cena's music, you get gassed.
Yeah.
The Rock was coming out like every WrestleMania and things like that. It gets you gassed.
I hope they have some good stuff planned for the Prime card.
Oh, same. Can you imagine?
Yeah, bro. Jake Paul's music hits.
I think how mad that will be. Yeah. So yeah, Salt Papi versus Slim. Crazy fight. I'm going to keep saying this because every fight of this is crazy.
This one is in particular because these are both huge misfit stars. Both have had big knockouts, obviously both big punches, and a lot of fans.
Slim undefeated as well?
Slim's undefeated, yeah.
But Salt Papi's not.
Oh, no, sorry. So, yeah, Salt Papi's not.
Yeah.
He lost to AT.
Exactly. So Slim's technically the A side because he hasn't lost. Slim as well was calling for a fight with KSI, which I think is a little bit pointless in my personal opinion, but obviously let me know what you think. But Salt Papi Slim, I think this fight's going to be quite... It's going to be... I think it's a good technical fight on the night because they both know how to box. Salt Papi's a bit more technical, but it is very 50-50. I can't... My prediction, I can't see where it goes, to be honest.
Well, here's the thing, and this is a big asterisk I don't think many people are talking about, but Salt Papi's obviously, and very impressively, lost a lot of weight. But notoriously in the crossover scene, when we see these fighters like a Halal Ham, like a Deji, like a Fuzi lose a lot of weight, usually their first performance back isn't always great. Sometimes, the gas tank gets affected by that. And one huge thing for Salt Papi is his power. Now, Salt Papi at light heavyweight, he was able to throw these huge shots and put people on their arse like a Warski, like a Josh Bruckner. Will he be able to possess the same amount of power with the weight he's lost to be able to have that same sort of effect against Slim, who, by the way, can take some huge shots and did take big shots against Zanetti, against Ryan Taylor? So that's going to be a tough thing for him because obviously we know Salt Papi is a knockout artist. And when it goes to a decision, with the exception of Halal Ham, he lost to AT. He wasn't able to do it. And that's what he was looking for against AT the other time, and he wasn't able to fight it. Slim, on the other hand, is a volume fighter. He's going to be going forward, and also he has knockout power and has knocked people out in the past. So it's a very 50-50 fight, but I am leaning towards Slim.
I am as well, and I'll tell you why. Because... you mentioned the weight as well. The weight is a massive thing in this fight because Slim is very quick and he's also got a bit of explosive power behind him. Whereas if obviously Salt Papi's lost a lot of weight, loses a bit of power, still got the power there, but loses a bit of power. But he's also going to be quick. He's not really... I don't think he's ever faced anyone like Slim yet. In my personal opinion, who's very good technically, but has that bit of explosive power. Ryan Taylor's, as we'll mention later, is quite explosive in the sense of the way he boxes, but there's no sort of massive technique behind him. So if he lands, and he'll land a good shot, but it's not really with conviction consistently. He's not landing consistently. Yeah. Whereas Slim can land consistently and take shots. Yeah. I think this is going to be the biggest...
and there's no fear with Slim as well.
Top three. That's the thing as well. He's fighting someone who hasn't got any fear and can step up when he needs to.
Because with Josh Bruckner, there was a lot of apprehension and there was a lot of mistakes made. So Salt Papi, because he's very technical and obviously he's got a lot of experience, and he was able to land that straight shot to put Josh Bruckner on his arse and he couldn't continue. With AT, he had no fear. He gave Salt Papi very little respect and he was in his face the entire time. And Salt Papi wasn't able to deal with that. And maybe we'll see the same sort of thing with Slim. And
the build up to that fight and the presser, the weigh-in and thing, again, goes in the favour of Slim. Slim's going to be more energetic.
Definitely.
We know Salt Papi's a Philippine man who's just chilled. He rolls it every time you see him. He goes like that. He's sitting like that. And he's chilled and things like that. Whereas Slim is a bit like Anthony Taylor in the sense of he's so excitable, gets in your face. He'll have a little shove in the presser and in the weigh-in and things like that. And that bodes in his favour because everybody's going to be talking about Slim. And listen, Slim's come out, he's calling out all sorts of people. Yeah. But again, we could say, if we're sitting on the fence, we could say Salt Papi could be sitting there in silence. He could be sitting there going, right, we'll wait till the 14th and I'll show you what we're going to do.
And obviously, Salt Papi's coming off a loss. Slim's never tasted defeat before, so he doesn't know what it feels like to have to come back from that, have a chip on your shoulder and then put on a performance. And that's what Salt Papi is probably using to drive his training. The fact that he had that experience of losing, that he doesn't want to do that again, that he wants to put on a show on the biggest fight, the biggest card of the year.
And again, you learn from your mistakes sometimes as well. So it's interesting to see. But also, when this is filmed, we don't know the exact order of each fight on the whole night. So obviously KSI Tommy and then Logan Dillon Danis. I'm looking here, by the way, because I've just got the sort of lineup in front of me of the fights. We've said that we think Waleed Sharks.
I believe that's going to be the co-main. Yeah,
I think that's going to be
co-main.
co-main. Salt Papi underneath, King Kenny, then Nunes, then the tag team, which moves us on nicely.
The tag team. This is an interesting one because obviously I've got a little bit of a personal connection there. B Dave is a good friend.
Yeah, good man.
And
good man.
B Dave and Pineda, Los Pinedas Galadas versus Alex Wasabi and Nick LaMeo. Both of them are pretty experienced and also very good fighters. But here's the thing. I think that stylistically they're both very similar. And with tag teams, what you need to do is have a sort of variance in terms of like you need to keep the other opponents guessing the entire time. You don't want them to have to fight the same sort of style.
100%.
Now, Wasabi looked decent against iDubbbz. If you remember his fight against iDubbbz, and obviously looked very decent against Deji. But Wasabi doesn't have knockout power, and neither does Nick LaMeo. Neither of them have knocked anyone down or out before. Whereas B-Dave does have the ability to do that. Now, Pineda is very similar in style to Wasabi, to a Nick LaMeo.
Just almost technical more.
Rangy. Do you know what I mean? They'll be with a jab, they'll land combinations and things like that. Whereas B-Dave has actual power and is able to knock people down and out. He does. He has this dog in him, do you know?
He's crazy, bam. Off camera, B-Dave, top man, by the way. He's great.
He's great.
But he is the funniest guy I think I've met in the scene because he generally just doesn't get, does he?
No,
he rocks up. He's there for vibes, good vibes only. He has a couple bevs.
Yeah,
he's
exactly. He's a hillbilly and he's great. I love him. And that's the thing, like Nick LaMeo and Wasabi are going to be constantly guessing because every time they tag, every time Pineda and B-Dave tag, it's a different style they're going to have to deal with, you know? They're dealing with this long, rangy pro boxer in Pineda, and then all of a sudden he tags, and then you've got this big, hard-hitting guy who's just going to keep coming forward. And that's what I think stumped Ice Posada and his partner in their tag team. And I do genuinely believe that the advantage, even though technically is greater, in my opinion, on the Nick LaMeo Wasabi side, I do see Pineda Coladas getting the win here.
I was going to say the same thing. I think they do, and also because of the spectacle as well. Them two, this is their second tag team together now. I think it's their second, isn't it? Yeah.
They won
7.
The first one.
They fought in 7, didn't they?
They had the Survivor tag, but Pineda was not involved in that.
Oh yeah, was it? Because he came out. I remember now. But yeah, this is their second tag team together, and they're just good fun. I think it's good vibes. But the one thing I really want to talk about on this podcast in particular about this particular fight, the tag team, is Alex Wasabi, because if we all remember, Alex Wasabi was supposed to fight JJ. The whole thing about him pulling out, I mean,
concussion, I believe.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be a story. Do you know that? And we talk about storylines, and I think this in particular is going to be a story because remember, they're going to be in the same room, press conference. They're on the main card, so they're going to be on the table. Alex Wasabi is going to get a lot of shit. I'm telling you, he's going to get a lot of shit from JJ. I don't think JJ cares too much now because obviously he's moving on to bigger and better things.
Of course.
But Alex is quite a timid man. If you've ever met him off camera, even on camera, he's
very
quite timid.
Guy, yeah.
So I think there's going to be a lot of beef there. I think there's going to be a lot of tension between them two. Because again, we haven't seen Alex for a while now, and since that fight got postponed, really.
Cool. Well, obviously his last fight was against iDubbbz, and iDubbbz looked decent.
Yeah.
You know, in that fight, and obviously he won rounds. It was 2-2 going into the last round. But I don't really see JJ taking a step back and going back to Wasabi now. He needs somebody that's going to be like aggressive towards him, that's going to bring the fire that Tommy Fury or Jake Paul does. I don't know if Wasabi is going to be able to sell pay-per-views and build those storylines and press conferences. Like, JJ can't go from fighting Tommy Fury to Alex Wasabi.
No, I don't know. To be fair, I don't think. No, I wasn't saying. I don't think JJ's going to go back to fighting Alex. What I mean is, I think
he's going to get a lot of hate.
I think he's going to get a lot of stick because, again, if you've pulled out from a fight, especially in the crossover scene, you're seen as a bit of a pussy.
It's unforgivable.
You are seen as a bit of a pussy. You know what I mean? Despite what the excuse is, it could be anything. God forbid anything bad did happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, we all know internally, do you know what I mean? It is what it is. You move forward. Yeah. But as from a fan point of view, he's going to get a lot of stick.
Of course.
On the night, press conference, on Twitter and things like that.
But the benefit of these sort of tag team fights, I do agree with you, but these tag team fights are sort of taken a bit less seriously. You know, people see them as a bit of a gimmick, and obviously, like, I'm sure obviously the fans are going to be there supporting B-Dave and Pineda, but they're not going to be going at Wasabi with the same viciousness they'd go towards a Tommy Fury, for instance.
What's your thoughts on the tag team events? Because obviously we saw a tornado,
Survivor
tag. Sorry, it was almost like the fatal four-way of such, wasn't it? As I like to call it. The Survivor tag. We've seen now the normal tag team. I've heard there's a few different style of events in the future. I can't tell you or put a finger on it yet, but they're apparently in the works of having some cool sort of style different fights. Like I like to call it WWE sort of events.
It's very like gimmicky, isn't it? Now, initially, like
Do you
a lot
agree
of
with
us
it?
were. Well, here's the thing. I think the Survivor tag and the tag team are two very different things. I'm not a big fan of the Survivor tag, and I'll go into that in a second. But on the tag team, I was kind of nervous going into the first one because obviously these are inexperienced boxers. Some of them were boxing for the first time, I believe, on the first tag team. And what it needs in order to be successful is a ref that knows the rules. That a ref that is able to stop the action when it needs to be stopped and make sure that all the fighters' health and safety is top priority, because things can go wrong very quickly, you know? And I feel like the first tag team was a big success because obviously it went exactly how they planned for it to go, and there was a big finish, and the favourites won in B-Dave and Pineda. No one got seriously hurt, and it was all, you know, all well and good. Now, going into the Survivor tag, I had the same sort of apprehension going into that, and I was kind of nervous about it, thinking I don't really know how this is going to work. I was speaking to B-Dave, who was fighting on it, and I was trying to get him to explain it to me, but he didn't really understand how it was going to work, and that worried me even more. And then on the night, they had this thing, last man standing. That was the big gimmick. It was kind of like the Eddie Hearn 10 ounce gloves, no head guards, someone's getting knocked out. And I was thinking, how is this going to work? And on the night we saw it, it was kind of a circus. There was unlimited tags, so people were just tagging whenever they wanted. It was really hard to keep track and even score the rounds. I didn't know how that was going to work. And all in all fighters made it to the final bell, and it was kind of a disappointment, in all honesty. I don't want to see Survivor Tag done again, but obviously, I think I'm a fan of the tag teams. I do like them.
I was going to say that. I'm a fan of the tag team. I think the sort of survival tag, sort of last man standing, it is too much. You might as well just stick them in sort of like almost like a kingpin style of event where you have like a semi-final. So like you'd have four fighters will fight. It draw out of a hat, 2-2, and then the winner fights the both winners. You know, that works better. But yeah, it's quite a cool. It's a cool thing to add. I really hope they come out with like the Undertaker music and the Pineda style thing again.
That. I was
so
there
good.
at Mrs. 04 when the Mexican music hit and Pineda comes out, and also when he was there in the ring at 07.
I knew he was going to be there as well because I saw him.
Oh really?
I actually saw him. Yeah, I saw something, and then I said to I'm not going to say actually because I don't want to get him in trouble. But I said to someone working at the Misfits events, I was like, "Is he here?" And he went, "No," and I could just tell from his body language straight away it was him. And we
Swarms!
It was it was incredible, and it was like I was backstage, and I see he basically was like this, right?
Well,
he was like walking like that, and there was like 4 big security guards around him, and straight away, just know you can tell from his figure, he's got a skinny sort of
he's
quite
skinny,
tall as well.
Yeah,
he's really
he is
tall,
tall,
but he doesn't speak a word of English as well.
No.
I'll be honest, the only conversation I think I've ever had with Pineda was "Vamos,
vamos!" Yeah, he loves that.
That's what I think I've ever said to Pineda. But again, he seems like a really top guy, and he's another star and sort of character as such in the Misfits.
Organic
scene.
as well.
Love
because
it. Yeah.
when he was announced, obviously at the as the mystery opponent, and his music came on, everyone fell in love with him straight away, and he became this huge star, and it was organic. And that's what I think Misfits need to do more, is like find these organic stars like Sol Papi, like Pineda. And I don't really like it when they try and push these people that aren't really stars and go, right, everyone follow this guy. Like, I don't know if you remember Uncle Pizza and things like that. Like, decent fighter, but he's just not an organic star. No. And we're not going to just pretend to like him because you guys are trying to push him, you know? Organic growth is important.
Listen, if we're talking about organic stars and we're talking about stars, bring back Wings and Boogie, please.
Oh my gosh, that was a hard fight to watch. That was a really hard fight to watch.
What's the meme? It's like, tough watch. It's a very tough watch. It was a tough watch. But if I'm being honest with you, I did an interview with Wings after the fight, and he got like 1 million views. Right?
Really?
He's such a nice guy, and he was saying to me like he was in a wheelchair like months before. He was like literally like on his almost like deathbed. He felt so unwell and things like that. And it was just so cool to see them two in the ring, see like the respect as well. Like, bro, bring them back. It was so cool. Like, honestly, I have so much respect for them. It's a crazy thing. Yes, it's a bit cringy. Yes, it goes against completely of what boxing stands for, like 2 ultra heavyweights. Yeah. But it is so entertaining, and they're both healthy as well after the fight, which is the best thing.
And that's what I like about Misfits, is now they're sort of going away with the gimmicks, and obviously with the Wings and Boogie. They're going away from that pro boxing, because back in the day when KSI Logan Paul was happening, the lines are very blurred, and that's why a lot of sort of like boxing purists were getting annoyed, because they're like, these guys think they're like pro boxers and they're talking as if they're pro boxers. But now with those kind of things, they go, okay, they're on their own path. This is obviously like a gimmick, and that's what I like. like about Misfits, what they're doing.
Because they're sort of putting themselves in their own little room now, aren't they? Where they're locking the door and they're saying, look, you can have your opinions, but you can't hate us for what we're doing because we're doing it well.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, they are doing this scene well. And again, this is another conversation for a whole different day, but Misfits as a whole, for me, has absolutely smashed it.
Definitely.
Completely. On every single card, despite we can sit here and say, look, they're putting too many good cards on all on one. It's too stacked. But they get you talking.
The excitement level's on a different level.
They sell fights.
Yep.
They make fights happen. Despite, listen, we want to see Jake Paul and JJ, but listen, they're two completely different promotions and things like that, and two different teams going at each other. Two people that generally dislike each other.
Yeah, and also they're building the storyline under one roof.
100%.
And all the fighters are under one contract. And now that Kingpin's out of the water, and now that
they get paid as well.
Exactly,
and they look after them.
Exactly, and the issues obviously with Creator Clash, Misfits pretty much have a monopoly on the influencer boxing scene, and that's how they're able to do that. And obviously we don't have the Jake Paul fight because he's with MVP and. That's a whole thing in itself.
But they're doing it well, and I respect them. And we enjoy it. We get more work out of it. And
I'm so excited. I'm like unbelievably excited for next week. Unbelievably.
It's crazy. This week, by the way. This comes out
this week. Saturday night.
It's going to be crazy.
The whole week, bro. The press conference, everything's going to be so exciting.
Oh, the content as well. Content is going to be golden. Okay, quick predictions. Quick fire.
Okay, cool.
Ready?
Yeah.
And all I want is, obviously, it could be a draw. It could be a draw, but name. It could be a draw. You never know. It's boxing, you never know.
Yeah.
Right, I want name and then round if you think it's going to be a round, or just split decision.
Okay,
all right?
cool.
Quick as you can. Salt, Pappy, Slim.
I'm going to go slim decision.
Dean the Great, Waleed Sharks.
Waleed, finish round 3.
King Kenny, 80. Anthony Taylor.
King Kenny decision.
Winston Nunez, my mate Nate.
Winston Nunez stops Nate in 2 rounds.
Tag team. Wasabi LMAO.
Los Pinedas Coladas, B-Dave. Victory. B-Dave Pineda.
Okay. Right, we're gonna move straight into the prelims. F the segment, as I like to call it. We'll do it all in one.
Okay.
Prelims. So Swarms, Ryan Taylor. We're going to go through these quite quickly because this is no disrespect to any of these fighters, by the way.
Of course.
I think these fights are actually going to be quite good.
Yeah, definitely.
But Swarms, Ryan Taylor. It is a rematch. Swarms won in sort of a weird manner.
Retina. Yeah.
I know. It was quite crazy how it happened. I was so happy. I actually interviewed Swarms after his fight. It done numbers, by the way. So thanks, Swarms, for that. But it done numbers because he lost so much weight. And the one thing I really, really respect about Swarms is he has put a lot of graft into this. He's taken a lot of stick because he's come from the hood. He's become a rapper. He's made it out the hood, made his money, made some songs. But then he's also literally like head first into this scene fighting JJ.
Yeah.
But he's lost so much weight. He looks ripped, and I don't know if you've seen a picture of him camp. He looks decent, decent.
Yeah.
And he's fighting Ryan Taylor. Bit of controversy around Ryan Taylor, but listen, Ryan Taylor's got his fight. It's the rematch. How do you see that one going?
It's interesting, obviously, because the first time I was leaning heavily towards Ryan Taylor, and that's because the first time we ever saw Swarms fight, it was against JJ on 2 weeks' notice or whatever it was, and he got absolutely battered.
It was like this, wasn't it? Like spinning all over the place.
Exactly. I had no idea what he was doing. He was out of shape, and then he wanted to make a statement, so he lost all the weight. He looked phenomenal. He's looking even better now, but even back in January of last year, he looked phenomenal. He goes in there and he breaks his retina in the first round. In the stadium, we had no idea what was going on because we had no commentary, so we were like,
yeah, it was crazy. It just sort of stopped, didn't it? And I was like, what the hell's happened?
Exactly. And obviously Ryan Taylor, he had the headbutt over in Kingpin, and then obviously he had some good performances, I believe, against Zanetti. Was it Zanetti or it was Slim? Sorry, Slim. Yeah. Looked very good against him, and he's a brawler. He's going to come forward and he's going to cause you some problems. And I did think that Ryan Taylor, with his experience, was going to get the better of Swarms on the night. But obviously he's had to recover. I don't know how much training he's done since then. He hasn't had a proper boxing fight since the Slim fight, whereas Swarms has been in there against somebody who's probably one of the most experienced people in the scene in Deji, and he managed to go the full distance with Deji, and have his moments too. Although he did probably lose every round, he did have a few moments against Deji, and now we're finally going to see that rematch happen between Swarms and Ryan Taylor. So I don't know. It's a really hard one for me.
I know. That is definitely a 50-50. And I know internally as well, they are quite annoyed that it's on a prelim. Because it is
I saw a Swarms prelim, what the fuck?
No, he's fuming. Because it is actually quite, it is quite a good fight. But if you're thinking about sort of like from a views point, because this is all to do with views, unfortunately, that's just the life. It's all to do with numbers, especially in crossover scenes. I mean, if it's a free fight to watch, they're going to get so many people watching their fight.
Yeah. You know
people love free things.
Absolutely.
They love free things. They don't want pay-per-view. They want free events. They want illegal streaming.
Bro, everyone's going to be like
mental.
getting followers from this. But you know what? Actually, I'm leaning a little bit more towards Ryan Taylor because I think, you know, it boils down to he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's got something to prove. He broke his retina. You know what I mean? He probably had to go through a lot of recovery for that. I'm sure that in the time he's been inconsistent and not fighting, he's probably been training his ass off, and he is a tough guy. And I think he probably will get the better of Swarms. And
then we've got SX DTG. Shout out SX, by the way. He's actually one of the nicest guys.
Is that how you pronounce it? I always thought it was SNX. I don't know why.
No,
SX?
Yeah, SX.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's what I've always called him. I mean, I've called it to his face, but he's actually a really, really calm guy. He's cool, so sound. Good music as well. Sort of involved in Proper Loud. I think he signs Proper Loud, actually, I think.
Yeah, I think
so he's heavily involved with Mams, JJ and things like that. He's done songs with JJ. But
he's fighting. He's a big guy.
He is a big guy, yeah. But he's fighting for the first time on Misfits, his first ever boxing fight, I think. I might be wrong. Unless he's had a fight.
He's definitely not fought before on
I've not
any
seen him.
Influencer Boxing card.
And he always wears shorts, by the way. I don't know if you noticed about SX.
Oh, really?
Yep, every single
Is
fight.
He down like that?
That was okay, I'll give you that. That was good. No, that was good. That was smooth. KSI song, by the way. But yeah, he always wears shorts. He's like a madman, but he's so cool. I don't think we can really talk about this like a lot because there isn't really a lot there because we've not really seen too much.
So his opponent is DTG.
Yeah.
Now, DTG has fought before. He fought against Halal Ham, obviously a fan favourite. Also, funnily enough, the first YouTuber I ever worked with is Halal Ham.
Really?
Yeah. But DTG looked decent against Ham, and a lot of people thought that he won that fight. Technically, he was all over the shop. I think he threw an elbow at 1.2. But obviously,
I actually remember that now. Yeah, you jogged my memory now.
That was a lot earlier this year, and he's had the time to build up the experience, and he has had the experience of being in front of a crowd for the first time too. Probably SX is the more popular and the more fan favorite one, so there's going to be a lot of pressure on his shoulders because everyone knows him from KSI, everyone knows him from the songs and stuff. So they're probably going to want to see him win because DTG, although he is also a singer too, I don't think he has anywhere near the following of SX. So yeah, the experience is obviously in DTG's corner. We have no idea what SX has.
I was going to say if he's linked with sort of Proper Loud and JJ and Mams and things like that, you'd expect him to be training fairly well.
Potentially,
despite how much commitment he wants to put in, he's still going to be training. He doesn't want to embarrass himself, does he? So
we haven't really seen anything though.
No, I've not seen a single clip. Have you? I don't know.
No.
And we normally...
Maybe he's been training since the start. Maybe he was training when JJ
Maybe
was
he comes out and
he's
got like a six-pack and things like that. Mad, wouldn't it? Astrid Wet, Alexia Grace.
So we're speaking about this before because obviously I had the pleasure, thank you Astrid, of going to the first fight they were meant to have.
Astrid Wet Promotions.
Astrid Wet Promotions. You know, she invited us down, and Astrid versus Alexia Grace. It was like a small boxing gym. There was obviously a few influencers there, a few people involved in the scene, and we're all excited to see this fight that was free to watch online. It had 160,000 live viewers or whatever it was. It was pretty insane, and obviously everyone was super excited. And then Astrid slaps Alexia, and then Alexia slams Astrid through the table.
Through the table!
It was all WWE. Like, we were like, what's going on? And then I'm filming this, and then I go upstairs to go and like tweet out a video of the whole situation. And as I'm doing this, Alexia Grace walks past me with a coach, and she's freaking out. I'm gonna sue with her. She has a lisp. All right. She was with someone from her corner. He was livid too, and they were both storming towards the car. And I'm thinking, what's going on? We're not going to get the fight now, because at that moment I realized that this fight ain't happening. So then I go downstairs, and as I go downstairs, I see Wade, who obviously was presenting the event, who I believe was Astrid's manager or somebody who was involved in the event. And this man is a full-grown man in tears. He was crying with Wade, saying, "I fucked it up. We fucked it up. It's all gone to shit," or whatever. And I was like, holy shit, like, this ain't happening now. And then I go down there, and I go down the stairs, and I see Astrid being attended to by paramedics. And I'm like, okay, this is like gone really south. So then I see everyone on Twitter going, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake, this is fake. And I'm like...
That was the biggest talking point, wasn't it?
Exactly.
Everyone said it.
And then when you watch it online, I'd have gone, that is fake, that's clearly fake. Because obviously now it's on the Prime card, they got what they wanted out of it. But I felt like a flat earther because I saw all this stuff going on.
And also, like, why would they want to waste everybody's time? Because think about it. Listen, as much as we said as well off camera, like the event was free to watch, free to get, like, do you know what I mean? Like, so you haven't got to pay to get in.
Yeah.
You could watch it online for free. The build up, the production and stuff wasn't unbelievable, but it was still a setup for where you could watch it online. But people have still got to pay to go up and see the fight. And it was in London, right?
Yeah, it was in
In London, so some people might have to travel down, some people might travel up.
Yeah.
So realistically, why would they rig that? Because I heard there was no sponsors sort of involved or anything like that. So which then makes you think, hang on a sec.
If I knew all of this, if I knew everything, I would have thought, yeah, it was fake.
100%.
However, the two things I saw was Alexia storming out. There was no cameras. I was the only one there. And when I went downstairs and I was in this like stairwell, and it was just Wade and this guy was in tears. If I didn't see that, I would have gone, yeah, it was fake. And I feel like a flat earther because I've seen that. I feel like I've seen proof the earth is flat. But regardless, we're getting the rematch now. We haven't seen anything of Alexia Grace, but Astrid is a Misfits champion.
She has the belt. Well, I mean, does she have the belt or does Alexia have the belt yet? I don't know. She stole it, so I don't know.
Someone has the belt. But on fight night on October 14th, one of them is going to walk away with the belt. And Astrid has had the more experience. She's been in there against Keeley. She stopped Keeley. She retired on a stool. And then she fights AJ Bunker. And AJ Bunker looked very good, by the way, last week in Newcastle against Belzy, who, by the way, also looked very good against Kimchi when she fought on 007. So how good is Astrid Ware? I do think Astrid has the experience and the ability to be able to beat Alexia. But at the same time, we have no idea about Alexia's boxing ability. Absolutely none.
I think Astrid, I think you're right. I think Astrid sort of has the more experience. I think, in my personal opinion, will get the job done. But then where is she at after this fight compared to like AJ Bunker or even, I mean, the fight that everyone wanted to see was obviously Elle Brooke. But there was a lot of talk about, I mean, I'm very, very sort of close with sort of Elle's team, a few of them. Shout out Johnny Fisher.
Yeah.
Obviously, all to do with their sort of team. She trains at their gym. But yeah, there was a lot of talk about weight and things like that, and the weight difference. There was a massive weight difference that Elle didn't want to cut down to, which again, weight in boxing is, as everyone knows, is huge and makes a massive difference.
Absolutely.
And can cause injuries and things like that.
Especially that sort of low weight class too.
100%. And again, no disrespect, but also low ability as well. Because
I agree.
Obviously, low ability, you're more inclined to try and throw haymakers and things like that, which can cause problems.
And both Astrid and Elle do that a lot.
100%. So I think that fight more swings into Astrid Wett's palm, but I don't really know where Astrid's going to be at compared to the other female fighters in the division.
Exactly, and this is hard. It's similar to the SX DTG fight where we haven't seen anything of SX, we haven't seen anything of Alexia, so it's really hard to make a prediction. All we can do is say from the experience that Astrid has shown, she probably has the edge.
And then we've got Chase Demore, the last one, Chase Demore, Tempo. Shout out Tempo, by the way. I've never met the guy, never spoke to either of them, to be honest, but I've seen Tempo all the time on TikTok about how he's losing weight and things like that. So I'm a big lover of that. Do you know what I mean? I rate the graft, I rate the ability and things like that. I have seen a few clips of Tempo. He's fought before as well, and he's done fairly well. Looks decent. Chase as well. I mean, the thing I remember most of Chase is the fact when he was like
Stevie Knight.
Yeah, it was all over the gaff, and he's just everywhere as well. He was at the fight 07 with the press conference and things like that, and he was just shouting out things, and I was just turning around and going, bro, just please be quiet.
Bro, at one point, I had the footage of like when Prime was launched in Barcelona. He was there.
I know, he's everywhere. The man is everywhere. Like, he's absolutely everywhere, and he wants like the biggest fights. Of course he wants the bag. He's great.
He's a big character.
He is a big character. He's a big man as well. He's huge.
I've never seen Tempo Arts in person, but Chase Demore is huge, and he's built too.
Yes. Well, Tempo, I'm sorry, you are a large man.
Yeah.
But he
calls
is a big
himself
man.
an obese 19-year-old. That's his thing, you know?
I know. He always tells everyone that he's lost like 4 stone, but he still looks like fairly decent. Like,
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I think this fight's, swings more into Tempo's sort of favour because because he's more technical. Tempo's more technical than Chase is. Chase is, listen, he's a big man, does a lot of talking. I don't think the ability's there, my personal opinion, but
it definitely isn't. But here's the thing: I feel like Chase Demore is 0-3 in Misfits now. He's lost. Obviously, he got the disqualification against Stevie Knight. He would have won that if he didn't throw those barrage of punches on the ground. But he really, really, really has an opportunity here to be 0-3 in Misfits and win a belt. Tempo Arts hasn't been as consistent. Obviously, the last time Tempo Arts fought was against Godson. He beats him in the first round. I think, was it Godson that he retired on his stool? And obviously, like, he had a lot of damage against Godson. But I think the experience, even though you're right, technically is better, but in influencer boxing, sometimes technical skill doesn't matter too much, because when it becomes a war, then both of you will fight in a war. Do
you think Chase takes this one? Then?
I think he does. Yeah, I think he's got a point to prove. I think he's been consistently training, even though he got a ban from Misfits and a $100,000 fine. Which, by the way, I have no idea how people believe that. I saw people reporting it as if it was fact.
Oh,
it was crazy. But yeah, Chase the more. He obviously had that experience fighting on, I think 006 was it, against the I can't remember, is it Alan Belcher? It was like a bare knuckle fighter.
Yes, yeah, no, it was. Him. I remember that now, because I think that was a prelim as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, he's just been extensively training, and I think just the experience, the training, the pressure that he's going to be putting on Tempo, I think it's going to be hard for him. And I think there's a lot of pressure on Tempo because he has a lot of people supporting him. A lot of people
he's got a good amount of following. And as well, I'm not sure where he's from, but I think he might be sort of London-y based, but I know we're in Manchester, but still UK based. He's going to have a bit of love and support.
We're going to see a finish. I think we're going to see a big
well.
heavyweight finish. And I think that Chase probably has the ability to finish.
I think in all of these prelims, we're going to see, I don't think we'll see a single split decision, in my personal opinion.
Wow.
Honestly, I generally think. And speaking of that, quick fire, you ready?
Quick fire, let's do it.
Swarms, Ryan Taylor.
Round. Oh, I think we. Oh.
Or do you think split? No, that's my opinion. So please, you're the guest. I'm not the guest.
You know what's funny? I think we're going to see a Ryan Taylor finish in how many rounds is it? 3?
I think it's 3 or 4. Prelims. Normally prelims are 3 though, aren't they?
Okay, I'm going to go round 3. If it's 4 rounds, I'll say round 3.
Okay, so SX DTG.
I'm going to have to go DZG just because we haven't seen anything from SX.
Fair enough. Astrid Wet, Alexia Grace.
Astrid all day.
Okay. Chase Demore.
Chase Demore.
Chase Demore. What did I just say? Chase Demore. Chase Demore, Tempo Arts.
Tempo Arts. A lot of people gave me heat for that because I predict when that fight was first announced, I predicted Chase and everyone was like, Tempo's winning. But to be honest, and I love Tempo, but he's not really shown me anything in these last 2 fights that's made me seriously impressed. Whereas Chase Demore, people are forgetting, he knocked down and out Stevie Knight. Although he got the disqualification loss, Tempo Arts has never done anything to that level.
Yeah, no, that is true. And this is the thing. This is why these sort of prelims are actually quite good as well, because they're not. Listen, personally, I wouldn't pay to go and see some of these fights, and that's just my personal opinion. You can have what you can say.
Of course,
do you know what I mean? But these are still good fights to have on such a good card.
It's on YouTube, right?
Exactly.
Misfits Boxing YouTube.
Gets you talking still. People love free things, don't they?
Absolutely.
We all love free things, don't we?
Especially in London. Jesus.
But yeah, I think that's sort of everything. We've sort of wrapped up quite nicely. I just want to say,
way more excited for the card. I thought I was at like a 10 excited, but I'm like way more excited now because there's a story.
Just looking at these, like we've got by the way, if you see me looking down quite a bit, we've just got like sort of the full Misfits Boxing Prime card.
Yeah.
Every single fight. It's mad.
It's crazy. And there's a storyline for pretty much like 90% of the fights, you know.
And they'll all hopefully eventually be something bigger as well moving forward, which makes this space even more exciting, doesn't it?
Exactly.
But I want to say thanks so much for coming on, Gio.
No worries, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Honestly, it's great having you. Good to see you again, my man.
My guy.
Proper.
See you next week.
Yeah, you will see me. Yeah. This week.
This week.
It's coming out this week. It's preview. Fred, I hate you. I love you. You should be here, my man, but I will see you this week. But I just want to say as well, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Influencer Boxing Show with myself, Charlie Woollard. Make sure, Joe, what do they need to do? They need to like, they need to subscribe.
This on TikTok, so follow, share to your friends, do it all, and yeah, comment, engagement.
Where can they find you, Gio? Most importantly.
So Twitter, Gio Torra, that's Giotorralba, and Instagram, Gio Torralba, so Giotorralba.
Slow that down if you need to, like, because he's
Torralba, Gio Torralba on Instagram, Gio Torra on Twitter. Super easy with the blue tick.
He's got a bit of Colombian in the boy, so he speaks rather quickly. So you might have to slow it down a little bit. Rapido, amigo. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. As always, as Gio said, make sure you do subscribe to the channel here on One-on-One Boxing, because we are providing you with the best influencer boxing content out there. I'm going to be there all week. We've got one-on-one interviews with all of the main card, and also we'll have some cool interviews with the undercard fighters as well as some of the prelims. It's going to be a mad week, Gio.
It's stacked.
Thanks so much for coming on, my bro.
Worries, it's been a pleasure.
For myself, Charlie Woollard, I will catch you on the next episode of the Influencer Boxing Show.